Okay, so you're going to have a quiz on Thursday on completing the square and transformations of all quadratics. Should be relatively simple. I think it's 12 questions. But if you don't have the rules down, you are going to struggle significantly on this. So hopefully you can get these down. Some of them are easier than others, so I'm just going to do a quick review on this. I'll do one completing the square problem, and I'll give you answers to your fever form. So, the first two are pretty simple, so reflections. Now, a y-axis reflection. Remember, we're talking about quadratics, so they look the same on both sides. F of x equals f of negative x. So just the x value is being negated or changed to a negative. Think of it like this. A quadratic, if you flip it on the y-axis, it's just going to switch around. It's not going to look different at all unless you horizontally shifted it right or left. So a y-axis reflection would only be something very simple. And the only thing that would change would be the x value, which doesn't really change a whole lot with regards to how it looks. Okay, now an x-axis reflection, that's a major change because it goes from this positive to then it goes to negative, right? The whole thing becomes negative. So think about the dance that I did, right? And all that kind of stuff. And also you can make positive and negative out of that too. So the whole thing becomes negative. Positive quadratic, negative quadratic. I hope I'm pointing at it. Negative quadratic. Okay, so think of it like that. That's an x-axis reflection. Vertical shift up and down, super, super easy. Whatever the function is, just add k or subtract k, k being the value of however you're shifting it on the y-axis. So positive if it's up, negative if it's down, super, super simple. Horizontal shift left and right. I think we went over that process a couple of times, so hopefully we've got it now. If I'm going a left shift, I need a plus value. And if I'm going to a right shift, I need a negative value. And remember, the reason for that is because we're looking for x-intercepts. And the x-intercept means it's going to look different than typically what you would think it would. Next one, vertical stretch or shrink. Any type of vertical stretch or shrink, I'm multiplying the entire function by a. So if a is greater than 1, it's going to be a stretch. And if a is less than 1, it's going to be a shrink. Okay, so remember how we talked about on Friday. Trying not to be crazy about it. Vertically stretching Mr. D, right? I'm going to get taller and skinnier. Vertically shrinking, I'm going to get shorter and fatter. Horizontal stretch and shrink. Kind of like reflections. I'm only multiplying the x value by this fractional thing here. So if it's a horizontal stretch or shrink, the value in the denominator is going to be greater than 1. So that would be a fraction, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, whatever. And that is going to horizontally stretch. Okay, it's going to get fatter and it's going to get fatter and shorter. Now, it's a horizontal shrink if the value here, and I put b here, but it could be a, it doesn't matter. If the denominator value is less than 1, right? So if it's a fraction, and I know that looks weird, but remember what we did. Let's say it's a horizontal shrink by 1/2. Well, it's already a fractional relationship, so it's 1 over, and then this would be b or a, but it's 1/2 here. And remember, this looks like it's 1 divided by 1/2, which is 1 times 2 over 1, which is just 2. So that's actually going to make the fraction go away, but that's going to be a horizontal shrink. A horizontal shrink is the same as a vertical stretch. Horizontally shrinking makes me taller and skinnier. Okay? So make sure you understand that relationship there. Vertical stretch is the same as horizontal shrink. And a vertical shrink is the same as a horizontal stretch. Okay. There we go. So let's do one completing the square. And yeah, we'll wrap things up there. X squared. This is an easy one. X squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 25. On the quiz, too, on Thursday. They should be pretty simple. For those of you who have a good understanding of completing the square and quadratics in general, we've actually never talked about perfect square trinomials, right? This, on the left-hand side, is a perfect square trinomial. What that means is I'm going to get the same factor twice, which would be blah, blah, blah squared, which is what we're getting to anyway with completing the square. But when you have a perfect square trinomial and you know that it's there, you can identify it, you could just technically take the square root of both sides. If you have a good understanding of completing the square. If you're not, let's go ahead and just do it. First step for completing the square is I've got to get rid of the c value. So I've got x squared minus 6x box, or square, equals 16 square. Right? And I take the b term, I divide it by 2, which gives me -3, then I square it. So I'm always going to get a plus. Oh, look what I just did. It's the same thing over and over again, isn't it? So now I know that I'm just going to factor that out. Okay? This process doesn't change either way, so now I'm going to get back to the normal thing here. So it's going to be an x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 25. Okay, this is why you don't have to go through this process because it's already kind of done for you. Factor this out. I know my factor is going to be an x and an x. What times what gives me that can I manipulate to make it look like this when I add or subtract? I know they both have to be 3, and I know they both have to be minus. That's going to equal 25. Again, that's why this is a perfect square trinomial, because I can just factor it out, right? Take the square roots. So x minus 3 squared equals 25. Now I can square root both sides. What I'm left with x minus 3 is going to equal plus or minus 5. Remember, it's plus or minus. We'll do the plus one first. I always have to add 3 to both sides, whether I'm plussing or minusing. My first value is x equals 8. And let's do it when it's a minus 5. And my other value is x equals -2. So on the quiz, you're going to have plenty of time. Just make sure you plug these values back into x to make sure it's true. So we can do one real quick. Let's pretend x is 8. So this value here becomes 64. This value here becomes -48. And that's plus 9 equals 25. Make sure that's a true statement. So this is a true statement. 64 minus 14. 16 plus 9 is 25. Done. Had some trouble with the subtraction for a second. It's early in the morning. It's Tuesday. There you go. So answers to the fever form. Okay. Number 1, x squared plus 8. Number 2, the quantity x minus 6 squared minus 4. 3. 3x squared plus 3. What's this? What did I even write here? Bear with me, I can't remember what I wrote. 1/3 x squared and 2x plus 4 squared. Okay, see if you got those. If you didn't get those, send me something on my 101 or Edmodo. I may have I think I wrote this one down incorrectly, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm right. Okay, 8-minute video. Wow, didn't think it was that long. All right, study for your quiz. See ya. Bye.